Participants, let's begin. A warm welcome to you all. On behalf of Green Tree Global, I'd like to welcome you to the webinar on green building rating systems. My name is Dhaval and I'll be your host for this webinar. A few instructions before we begin. Firstly, please note that you have to join in via audio so you can clearly hear the webinar. Secondly, a humble request to please switch your videos off and keep your mics and audios muted throughout the session. Thirdly, in case you have queries during the webinar, request to please submit your questions via Q&A chat box. As we are all going through a pandemic, which has put a lot of strain on our personal and professional lives, I do hope you all are safe and taking necessary precautions. With regards to the webinar, our webinar will help you learn about the green buildings directly from our experienced leadership team. Additionally, it will give you an approach on the new age concepts of sustainable design and case studies for deeper insights. The webinar is divided into 3 parts. Firstly, you'll have the introduction to GT Academy. Then green building rating system will be discussed. And lastly, a dedicated Q&A. I would like to highlight a few key features of Green Tree Global and the work we do. The company was started in 2009 and has established 4 major verticals. Over the years, the organization has provided, firstly, advisory services in energy efficiency, in the use of renewable energy, corporate social responsibility activities, and various others. Secondly, sustainable design and implementation, which includes building certifications, audits, ESCO, and various others. Third, product and solutions, which provide an energy management solution for both residential and commercial projects. And fourth, skill development, providing customized training programs for students and as well as professionals. As part of skill enhancement, Green Tree Global has launched the GT Academy. In order to explain you more about GT Academy, I would like to introduce Mr. Dhruv Jain. Mr. Jain is a co-founder and director at Green Tree Global, an experienced energy professional with over 12 years of experience in sustainability consulting and engineering industry. Diverse experience of working in corporate and startup work environments spread across various roles like business planning, strategy, energy efficiency financing, market research, and project management. Over to you, Mr. Jain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhaval, so much for introducing me. I hope my voice is audible, so all of you can hear me. So yeah, on behalf of Green Tree Global, I welcome all of you who've joined in for this session today to this introduction webinar on green building rating systems. So I'll be talking a little bit about what we do at Green Tree Academy. So this is a fairly new initiative. So for all of those who know about Green Tree Global, so I'd like to introduce Green Tree Academy, GT Academy to you. And then we will have the other speaker talk about the green building rating systems in detail. So for all the questions and answers related to any part of the session, we have a dedicated Q&A towards the last 20 minutes of this webinar. So please send in your questions and we will take those up in the last. Okay, next slide, please. Next. All right, so a little introduction about what Green Tree Academy is all about. So it's an initiative from Green Tree Global, which has been working in the field of sustainability consulting for last 12 years. So the idea is to bring the industry knowledge that we've acquired over the last 12, 13 years in form of short professional courses, and to help students and professionals upgrade their skill sets so that they become industry ready. So from the day that they graduate out of their colleges, the idea is to make them industry ready so that they can be productive on their work, on their jobs from day one. So this will make you more employable and more attractive talents for the industries and the recruiters to hire, especially because given that the fact that sustainability is a fairly new field. What we observed the last 10, 12 years in the industry is there's a dearth of talent, trained talent, skilled talent in this industry. So we felt there's a requirement that we should be stepping up, and we should work with the academia and industry to train people and to get them industry ready. So apart from working with academic institutes and students, we also collaborate and partner with various multinational companies and roll out certain certification courses which are co-branded by us and by those MNCs. So we'll talk about that later. Um, so what we offer in GT Academy is cutting edge courses which talk about new age technologies. So nothing conventional about us. So we have experienced faculty members. All of us who are going to deliver the courses here are going to be people who are working in the industry. It's a hybrid delivery model. So given the pandemic right now, of course, the offline model is not possible yet. But what we had initially designed, and we've also rolled it out in one educational institution in India, is a hybrid model. So which means there's a webinar-based online learning, and there is a hands-on training session in a laboratory. So it's a mix of both these sessions that we plan to roll out. And lastly, the idea is also to give preferential access to students who enroll with us, whom we work with together, to give them opportunities for placements and internships. So because we are connected to a lot of people in this industry, and we've been working in this space for a number of years, it would only make sense for us to complete the loop. When we train the students, we also put in efforts to make sure that they get access to the opportunities. Yeah, so next, please. So how are the courses typically rolled out? You register to the course, you attend the lectures, then there are certain evaluations during the course of these sessions that you'll have to pass to be able to certify that you've learned the knowledge that we've tried to give to you in the sessions. So you get the certificate of completion only once you pass all the assessments. And then the course feedback is what we also look forward from the candidates. And at the end of the course, I think so there's a dashboard that we have on one of our platforms. The successful candidates, they also get a lot of visibility on those dashboards because they successfully complete the course with us. So that's how normally the life cycle of a course. These are all short courses. Yeah, let's go next. Okay, so that's a quick introduction about GT Academy. Now, without taking much time, I'd like to quickly move into the next part of the session and invite our next speaker. So, Dhaval, I'll let you do the favors from here.
Thank you, sir. I would like I would like now to introduce Mr. Anurag Bajpai. Mr. Bajpai is the key speaker of the session. He is a co-founder and director at Green Tree Global. He leads the technical division. His scope covers the technical operations, brand development of the company, and explores innovative best practices for delivery. His professional interest includes energy efficiency, grid integration, data analytics, policy implementation at different levels, and energy software tools development. A very warm welcome, Mr. Bajpai. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhaval, and thank you, Dhruv, for setting up the stage. Now, in this case, the first course that we have launched is Green Building Design and Rating Systems. In this course, what we are going to talk about the building design, and other areas as well. This is a 3 days course or 6 hours course that we have segregated into 5 lectures. So there are, let's say, the lecture first, which talks about the passive design techniques. There is a lecture second, green building design and rating systems. So we have clubbed lecture one and lecture two, where we have talked about, let's say, the green building design, how we design the buildings with respect to the local climate conditions, uh, let's say, and the orientation, how we apparently look at the aspects which are very simple to measure, but are very important to include while designing the buildings. Now, when we look at the passive design techniques in terms of including the shades, Jharokha, Jali, courtyards, and etc., which certainly have been an asset to our cultural heritage of architecture as well. But most of the cases, when we are in hurry as an architect, we certainly tend to ignore these techniques, but they certainly help a lot in terms of the building, their users, in achieving the high performance for the building as well. So most of the rating system that we talk about nowadays in terms of India specific, we talk about IGBC, Indian Green Building Council. We talk about GRIHA. GRIHA stands for Green Rating for Integrated Habitat Assessment. We talk about LEED, supported by USGBC or GBCI. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. We also talk about a new rating systems like WELL, which is meant for human comfort, well-being, and health. And it's again administered by GBCI, Green Building Council institution. And then there are fairly new rating systems in the market as well that we see, like SOCHM, GEM. So they have started a new rating system, which certainly have a very different, uh, uh, let's say, analogy in terms of introducing something which is not there in the existing rating system, but they also synergize in terms of the core approach of the building design in terms of high performance building, the green building, which includes high performance in terms of energy efficiency, in terms of water efficiency, in terms of other aspects. So these all are we are going to talk about in lecture one and lecture two together. Um, Now we talk about the lecture three. Lecture three is primarily the vast description of lot more green building features that we talk about. In any particular rating system, there is a particular framework which defines certain parameters. We call these parameters as a minimum benchmark, which defines energy, water, air quality, indoor air quality, material and resources, and etc. But in terms of the detailing of these features with respect to a particular building or to the particular building category, that we are going to discuss in lecture three. Now we talk about the site sustainability when we talk about uh, the the site, how we apparently prepare the site in current scenarios where we talk about the less pollution, where we talk about the preventive measures as per the COVID-19 scenario. We also talk about the labor safety, health, and well-being for the laborers, because they are the one who built these buildings. So we talk about them, their the facilities and their infrastructure, their habitable spaces, and etc. Then we talk about the material and resources in great detail. What are the materials which are available, and what are the properties which are supposed to be referred by green building rating system? What are the new trends in the material and resources? We talk about the life cycle assessment. We talk about let's say embodied energy. We also talk about environmental product disclosure, let's say the EPD, which is a new thing have been included in GRIHA, in LEED, or also they are in process of becoming a part of IGBC as well. Certainly well includes all these newer technology or the newer material specification as well. Now, next to the in terms of green building features, water efficiency, which is again the very scarce commodity. And we talk about the water usage optimization inside the building, outside the building, and what are the technologies which are responsible for making the gray or black water treated and convert them as a recycled water to be reused again. And then indoor environmental quality, where we talk about daylight analysis, we talk about the fresh air intake, air exchange rate inside the building for natural ventilation purposes, or in case of the conditioned spaces, then what are the fresh air rate as per the SHRE 55 or thermal comfort. All these things they will be discussed under indoor environmental quality in green building features. Energy conservation, it's the most important aspect that we see in terms of the rating scenario. Now for the ratings like LEED, they refer as SHRE 90.1. They also have a lot of versions. So what are the variations or the comparison in terms of SHRE 2009 and 2016, and then again the latest one, which is 2018, also being referred in different versions of the ratings. So we are going to talk about those versions and their specific minimum efficiency standards, and also in terms of the Indian codes and standards like Energy Consumption Building Code, and also NBC to some extent in terms of the efficiency standards. Innovation is one thing which is always the project specific, but we'll certainly like to highlight few of the innovations which we have seen in our projects. We would like to highlight them. And this is again the 2 hours lecture that comes under lecture 3 and named as Green Building Features. Lecture 4 and lecture 5, we have clubbed it together. Again, we have taken a specific case study like British school based in New Delhi, Chanakya location. And then this is again one of the best project that we have done. It's a Griha 5-star project. We would like to showcase how the project looks like once the project gets completed, it's occupied, and then the rating is already awarded to it. Then again, the operational maintenance challenges and how the owner or the society is meeting those challenges and making the rating continued for the particular project and building. Now, the last part, which is also, I think, for the students or the professionals community, is very, very important. When we talk about the ratings with respect to particular design criteria, how you document the whole project and submit to the authority. So we'll certainly like to have some glimpse out of our projects and experiences, and we would like to showcase starting from the project registration and goes to the certification, and how the credit can be achieved, and what are the main documentation pattern should be documented and submitted to the different authorities panel, or submit to let's say the offline in terms of the email and etc. And then in all the lectures there are certain Q&A sessions. So there are certain, let's say the 5 to 10 Q&As which we would like to give to your as a homework schedule as well, and some of them will certainly like to discuss before starting for the next lecture, and so that we can all discuss. You also have this thought about the probable solutions, and we'll discuss with all of you together in the lecture sessions. So there'll be Q&As, and then the case studies, and then the lot of knowledge and experiences that we have gathered so far. Now, the first lecture that I have talked and mentioned about green building rating, this is how the flow of the lecture, green building design and rating systems. So we'll talk about the passive design techniques, passive cooling techniques like earth air tunnel, geothermal cooling, and other technologies which are available, even the evaporative coolers, natural ventilations, how you apparently calculate the comfort conditions in a naturally ventilated spaces, how many number of unmet hours that are there because of let's say non-availability of compressor-based technology. So all these things that will be the part of the passive cooling techniques and passive design techniques. Then we talk about the climate zones, then composite climate design strategy primarily, because most of the construction that we see in this particular zone, so we'll be highlighting most of the specific climate design strategies. For example, courtyard planning, shading design, or even Charokha, Jali's orientation, and etc. They'll be the part of the composite climate design strategy, then sustainable building design process, and then environmental assessment methods, which are responsible for the lecture one. Second lecture that we have mentioned about 5 specific ratings description. They'll certainly not be very much elaborate, but we'll try to have some Q&As related to, let's say, a few rating systems like IGBC and LEED, or even GRIHA as well, in terms of helping the students in terms of becoming the accredited professional or certified professionals. So I would like to highlight the ratings with respect to their requirement, uh, with respect to the credentials achievement, and also helping the students in terms of making the successful attempt for the APs and CPs as well. So we'll be talking about LEED rating system, IGBC rating system, GRIHA rating system, WELL rating system, ASSOCHAM and GEM rating system, and there'll be a lot of quizzes also be the part of it. Third lecture, which is the second session of the course, which talks about the green building feature. As I mentioned, we'll be discussing much more in detail in terms of site water efficiency, energy efficiency, material and resources, indoor environmental quality, innovations, and other topics also, which you may also suggest and are relevant to the course. We'll also like to include them during the course as well. Case studies. So we'll be talking about more on the school, a British school, a very renowned building in Delhi NCR, and it's a GRIHA 5-star rated, which we have done for this project recently. And the school has a lot more these best features in terms of let's say the location, in terms of energy efficiency, water efficiency, and so on. So we'll be discussing with lot more visuals available with the school project, and we'll be discussing and describing more on that perspective. Last but not the least is the documentation as per the rating agencies, what they expect in terms of the project owner or the architect or anybody who is a part of this project meeting as a stakeholder. What are the documentation strategies or the requirements which the rating agencies is asking for? This is not only, I think, should be considered as a requirement from the rating agency's perspective, but I think it should be the part of the office culture as well, because until unless you document the particular building, the life of the design process will not be much. So it is really an important, that is how we have also learned this process rigorously, in terms of how a building which is going to come up and is being designed as one of the best sustainable building project, then what are the requirements from the rating perspective, and also from the owner or the designer perspective. So we'll be discussing more on these things with very specific and very, let's say, project specific discussions, because we have a lot of project experiences. We have done almost like close to 500 projects. So I think we would like to discuss more from our own experiences in this respect. And so these are, let's say, the few of the documentation in terms of what are the requirements. Then let's say specific to the rating authority, let's say LEED, what are the processes in terms of getting the project registered and putting the information online, and how you can get the review process done and getting the project awarded. All these things shall be the part and parcel of the let's say the last part of the lecture, which is again the lecture 4 and 5, including case studies and then the documentation requirement. So I'll just summarize it. So we'll start with the lecture 1 and lecture 2 together in terms of class 1. So we'll talk about the green building design features uh, and green building ratings, because these two things should be integrated and they go always hand in hand. Second is in terms of green building features in detail, in great detail, in terms of energy, daylight, water, material, indoor air quality. And third one is the case study and documentation part. This is something that we'll be discussing, and we would like to have your inputs also in terms of the classes or the lecture which is going to start from 3rd of June. And I would like to finish my discussion here, and I would like to give the opportunity to Dhawal, and over to you, Dhawal.